Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's proceedings. For those of you that don't know me, although I think I know most people in the room, I'm Kathy Duff, a director at Trialogue. It's so great to see so many people in person again. We've done this launch virtually for the last 2 years, and this year it's a pleasure to have you here, and we are also streaming it, hence all the equipment. So a warm welcome to everyone who's watching online as well. Today we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the handbook at this amazing historic venue. And it's actually almost 26 years ago to the day, on the 4th of December 1996, that the Constitution of our country was actually approved at the Constitution Court, which you all walk past on your way up. So quite a historic event, and obviously of slightly less importance than the Constitution, but very important to us. Taddy Blecher, who I'm sure many of you know, who authored the guest forward in this special edition. He's a long-standing partner of Trialogues, so we couldn't think of a better person to celebrate with. He's an inspirational and passionate individual who has impacted the lives of so many people, and his message is going to be one of hope. Following that, our new thought leadership manager, Riyad Ibrahim, will take you through an overview of the handbook and some of the highlights from a few of the articles to give you a taste of what you have in store. And he'll be followed by one of our Trialogue consultants, Remembrance Chamiri, who will take you through the findings of this year's research. He'll reveal the total CSI expenditure for the year, as well as those companies and nonprofits that were rated most highly by their peers. After this, we move on to the celebratory or the fun part of the event, where the awards will be announced, starting with the winner of the Trialogue Strategic CSI Award, and then moving on to the winners of the MTM Award for Social Change. So for our new friends joining today, I just want to give you a brief overview of Trialogue. And for those of you who've known us for many years, which is a lot of you, there are some exciting new developments that I just want to let you know about. So Trialogue is one of the few consultancies that focuses exclusively on responsible business. And we do this through our advisory services and through our knowledge sharing platforms. And the aim of everything we do is to make CSI more effective by sharing knowledge and learnings and through our advisory services. On the advisory side, we've actually worked with many of your companies in the room on your CSI strategies, your monitoring and evaluation. And next year, we'll be building on our M&E practice by launching an M&E dashboard, which will show visually some of the indicators that have been developed. So watch this for more information on that. On the knowledge sharing platforms, in addition to the handbook, which you'll find out a lot more about today, we have our annual Business and Society Conference. The next one is in May next year, 9th and 10th of May, so dates. And we also have our monthly webinars on the last Thursday of every month. And then in 2017, in the 20th anniversary of the handbook, we launched the Trialogue. Hopefully all of you have seen it and used it, because it's a rich repository of information and data and case studies on different development sectors. Anyway, we're excited that early in 2023, we're going to be relaunching a revamped and revitalized Knowledge Hub. And not only will it contain the rich information that you've come to know on the Knowledge Hub, but it will also allow you as leaders in CSI to profile your work across different development sectors. And then another very exciting development for us this year was the launch of the Trialogue Academy. We launched it earlier this year, and we've run one course so far, which was Strategic CSI Masterclass. We'll be running that again in March next year. And we're going to be launching a lot more courses. Trialogue has offered training for many, many years. And during COVID, we decided to move that online. And so we've launched the Academy, which offers courses for both nonprofits and corporate representatives. And some of them are completely online, and others are hybrid, where there's workshops and sessions kind of virtually in person. Okay, as we mark today and the 25th anniversary, I looked back at some of the earlier editions of the handbook. And the first editor of the handbook was actually Vanessa Rocky, who created or Trialogue with Nick, who's over there. And she wrote that when she approached corporates for the first edition's primary research, she was frequently met with suspicion. Transparency was rare. There was seldom an employee dedicated to managing this area, which was often relegated to part-time HR, PR, or marketing functions. So look how far we have come 25 years later. I mean, most of you here today are dedicated to managing the social investment of your companies, and many of you communicate openly and transparently about it. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who've done that through case studies and adverts in this silver edition. In fact, in this handbook, and you'll see, we celebrate those companies that have supported us most frequently through the years. And I'd just like to recognize and say a special thank you to ABSA, Nedbank, MTN, Telkom, Rand Water Foundation, Old Mutual, and Investec, who have supported this publication for more than 20 years. Can we just have a round of applause? Without the support of companies, we wouldn't be able to do the robust research that this handbook contains, and that I think so many people rely on to help them with their CSI strategies. So a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Back to the present, I want to say a big thank you to the Trialogue team. The handbook's always a year-long mammoth effort that almost everyone in Trialogue is involved in. So a special thank you to Fiona, who's the managing editor. She's not here in person, but watching virtually. So if you're on the virtual stream, please give her a virtual round of applause. But thanks to Fiona. Then to Lerato, who, there she is, who I think all of you have dealt with, who participated in the handbook. Big thanks for all your effort in the handbook. And then to the whole team of analysts and writers in the Joburg office. Remembrance, who painstakingly worked through the analysis of all of the research. Mpumi, where's Mpumi? Okay, Mpumi, who is here, but I think is outside at the desk, who actually did the research looking back at 12 development sectors over 25 years. And she commented that she felt like she was looking back, well, she was looking back at her entire lifetime and the history of what had happened in her lifetime. So that was a lot of work for her as well. Abdullah and Riyadh, who joined us recently and have basically been thrown in the deep end, their first handbook experience, but thanks for your support in getting this done. And then Taryn, who's also virtual, and Sipe, who I think is outside. But as you can see, it really does involve everyone in the company, and I just want to say a thank you to them. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Taddy. Taddy is the CEO and founder of the Maharishi Invincibility Institute and the CEO of the Mvula Education Empowerment Trust. This trust actually has a 25% shareholding in Trialogue, so we've had a long-standing partnership with Taddy and with Mvula as well as Maharishi. Over to you, Taddy.
Perfect. Can everyone hear me okay? Sound is working? Samuel? Can hear, good. Okay, perfect. That's excellent. Wonderful. Such an incredible honor to be here with this amazing group of people at the this wonderful celebration for Trialogue of the 25th anniversary edition. And I think everybody in this room, I don't even think I know everyone in this room, has a burning passion for and commitment to our country, our beautiful South Africa, and an abiding and continuous desire to see equity, prosperity, safety, and opportunity for all who live in our country. And South Africa is a place where so many corporates do so many incredible things. And I think every one of you are from companies that you could write whole books about all the achievements you've had and the work that your company does. And that's rare by world standards, actually, what corporates do here in South Africa. So it's really a profound honor to be here to speak to this incredible group who work tirelessly day by day to achieve this vision for all in South Africa. And I just want to say being in this women's jail is very poignant for me. And and it's very meaningful for me because kind of links back to my life story. And my father arrived in South Africa when he was 1 year old on a ship with his parents. They were escaping from Nazi persecution during the Second World War, just at the start. Came from a country called Latvia, and Jewish people were being sent to concentration camps, of course. And they managed to escape and got onto a boat which was coming to South Africa. They knew nothing about South Africa, and they just literally were running with their lives, and they didn't have time to take anything. And they arrived here with just the shirts on their backs, and they were so poor that they sent my father away, and he went to go live with a relative on the south coast near Margate. And he grew up there for the first 8 years of his life, and they didn't have money to bring him backwards and forwards. And my grandfather just used to sell little things here and there, door to door, trying to make ends meet. And my father came back to Johannesburg when he was 8 years old. It was the first time he really met his parents. He didn't remember them from obviously being 1 year old. That certainly had a, I'd say profoundly damaging effect on him, on the rest of his life, not growing up with that love of his parents. But nonetheless, it also led to an incredible strength in him and an amazing vision for making a difference to other people. So when we were all growing up, my father had put himself through Wits University, through medical school. He became a medical doctor. He ended up getting 7 degrees. He was obsessed with education. And he believed that the way out of poverty for his family was through education. And so he educated himself. He paid for now his brother and sister that he had met when he was 8. And he put them also through Wits. And they also all got great jobs. My uncle is a dentist. My aunt is an occupational therapist. But then my dad carried on, and he ended up starting his own private practice. He put his nurses' children through school, through university. We all went to private schools. But we slept on the floor. We had no money for anything. All the money went to education. And so it was a great time for me. I didn't know differently. And so me and my 3 older brothers slept in this tiny little room on these foam mattresses on the floor. But I saw what the work of my dad did to change our lives. And, all these more than 30 people that he paid for their education became very successful. So my oldest brother's got like 6 degrees, a medical doctor. He works in Treasury, chief director for the health budget. I won't go through all of them, but all 30 whatever are just all over the world, very successful. And I saw firsthand the power of education. But when we were young, growing up, I think because my dad had probably suffered so much, like growing up not knowing his parents and all of that, and he really hated apartheid. He ended up becoming the chair of the SOC when he was at Wits in medical school. And so when he was a young medical doctor, he started to come to the women's jail here and see the women who were in jail just because of their, belief that South Africa had to change, and they'd been thrown into jail. So he helped people here like Albertina Sisulu, Winnie Mandela and others here, and in the women's jail in Pretoria. So when we were very young, we used to just come on the south side of the jail here, like the streets there, and we would just be playing in the street, like playing soccer with my brothers. We didn't even know what my dad was doing. I had no understanding of politics or what was really going on in the country, and so on. So coming back to the jail is it's very meaningful and very memorable. And my dad did that every Thursday, every Saturday for years and years and years, using his own money and so on, coming to help women who had been thrown in jail for no reason other than the color of their skin. So so I grew up in this family of activists, and but I was I'd say the black sheep in the family. I just wanted to be rich growing up. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30, and that's all I used to think about. So when I was at Wits, and my family were very embarrassed about me, that I wasn't an anti-apartheid activist, and that I wasn't fighting with the police at Wits and all of that. We all went to Wits, and my brother, just older than me, was organizing all these like marches, and the police were coming and tear gassing, and and then my oldest brother had to like stay away from home, and the police would come looking for him. And then I was like selling jewelry to the people running away from the police. I was trying to make as much money as I could, doing actuarial science part-time, and trying to make money the rest of the time at Wits. And so anyway, apartheid ended, and 1994, so Trialogue's was really born, I think, in the new South Africa, 1997. Yeah, and then in 1994, 1995, so many people started leaving. It was the new South Africa. I also started to think of leaving, and I was about to go to the States, packed up everything. By now I was an actuary, and yeah, I was earning a lot of money in those days. And yeah, and then 2 weeks before leaving the country, I ended up staying up all night one night and had this real epiphany that I wanted to stay in the country and make a difference to other young people. And it was a complete change. At that time, I was earning like 1.3 million rand. I was 27 years old. I'd been traveling all over the world. And now all of a sudden, I decided to go into Alex, and I spent 4.5 years in Alex Township and Soweto every day, and then Daveyton, and so on, and started getting involved in nonprofit work, which I've now done for just as long as Mandela was in jail. So 27 years, and am now 55. So I've been really part of the same time as this journey that Trialogue has been growing up as a company. And I just want to really congratulate Trialogue for their work. And I think what Kathy was saying, that Vanessa was saying in the early days of CSI, it was so unorganized, etc. But I think for all these 25 years, they've been reminding corporates of what's important, our role in society, that we're not just here to make money as companies, but also here to serve. And really, I mean, we know the old saying from the Bible, to whom much has been given, much is expected. And it is incredible to see how corporate South Africa really does make such a massive difference in so many areas in South Africa. Having come through this pandemic now, of course, there's just deepening inequality and inequity. There's growing uncertainty for so many millions in this country, water supply issues, electricity supply issues. Every day, I mean, just the load shedding, it just goes on and on and on, almost seeming like it will never end. Food supply issues, etc., ongoing corruption, and growing organized crime, etc. And so none of this makes it easy. And so really, I mean, all of us have our work cut out. There's no question about that. And we really all have to redouble our efforts. We've got to quadruple our efforts to change and create the beautiful dream that we all have for South Africa. And that means we all have to love more. We all have to give more. We all have to care more. We have to think more. And we have to be obsessed more with solving these problems and really getting to the root causes and finding innovative solutions. But the positive side of this is that there isn't a single problem, I believe, in South Africa that doesn't have a solution. So, I mean, we look at this load shedding thing, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, we have so much sunshine in South Africa and so much wind in places like the Eastern Cape. We should have like double the power, triple the power than we all need if we just organize things. There's no question. And so if we take starvation, I mean, isn't it crazy 14 million people go to Hungary every night? How big is our country? How much land is available? I mean, in Israel, they'll just farm in the desert. I mean, we look at what Dubai has done, creating an entire city in the middle of a desert. We have unlimited opportunity in South Africa to change our problems. So I think all of us are here because we know we shouldn't be mired in problems, and problems are not really, they're real, but they're not really real. I mean, if we really use our intelligence and collectively work together, there isn't a single one of these problems, not poverty or unemployment or inequality or corruption or load shedding or water shedding or food insecurity, any of them, name them all of them are fixable if we use our intelligence and work together. And doing work like this is not just because we want to do it, that it's a feel-good factor. I think we have to do it. And just like the earth has to go around the sun and the moon goes around the earth, as humans, we have to make life better and evolve and make life better for all. And I just want to read a quote from one of our teachers that she wrote this a few years ago, and it means a lot to me. And she says, life is better when you are happy, but life is at its best when others are happy because of you. Be faithful in touching others' hearts, be an inspiration. Nothing in nature lives for itself. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruits. The sun does not shine for itself. Flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We were all born to help each other. So no matter how difficult the situation you find yourself in, still do good to others. And I think when we started our nonprofit, we started first as CEDA, and then the Malaysia Invincibility Institute started in 2007. And I knew nothing about the nonprofit sector. All I knew was making things, selling things. I was an actuary, I was a management consultant, etc. So going into Alex, I didn't really know how I could be helpful to anybody. And so it was a big learning curve with lots of mistakes in the beginning. But I think one of the things that's allowed us to build the first free university in South Africa and then build a number of these institutions. Now I'm very happy to say, we're in actually now 11 locations. We're just going to be opening up in Zambia as well. So we're in 4 countries. But all of this has been possible through shared value and finding ways that we can do things through what we do, which is to help educate young unemployed people and get them into the economy in good jobs, by finding ways that that could be of use to companies. So how could that be of use to companies? Well, it could be of use because companies need to employ these people. So I'll give one wonderful example of shared value, and Kathy was showing ABSA as one of these 20-year sponsors. Is anyone from ABSA here in the room? Not. I think they're all tired from working so hard with us. But yeah, so just to say with ABSA, for example, ABSA being a bank, cybersecurity, we know hacking is one of the biggest problems facing business in the world today. And ABSA needs these cybersecurity skills, and they're not easy to find. So we've created an academy together. There's 70 students who've started in that program. But we're taking unemployed, largely marginalized women who've really never really touched a computer, and we're training them up to become top-end cybersecurity specialists. And when we first started this, we did a test with ABSA of all the students, a psychometric test. And ABSA said, unless these students get 5, like a composite score of 5 or above, none of them will be able to make it through these 17 certifications that they need to do. Most of them are global. 13 of them are global. The top score our students got was 3.1. So when we got that and ABSA saw these scores, they were just like, okay, this is never going to work. We had a team huddle and they said, look, they're really sorry, but we're going to have to close down this program because the students are never going to make it. It's unfortunate, it was a good dream, but they'll have to come up with another plan. And I said, please, can we just let them write the first exam? And if it's a bloodbath, let's can the program and we can shut it down. And anyway, suffice it to say, we did write the first exam. We had 100% pass rate. We wrote the second exam. We had 100% pass rate. And then since then, over this 3-year period, our students have not just passed every exam, and pretty much all of them first time. We've had about 4 or 5 exams, like with Amazon Web Services, etc., where the students didn't just pass, they got 100%. So for example, half the students got 100% out of 100 for some of the Amazon exams. So this is just, it's so exciting, because here were young women who were just unemployed, doing nothing with their lives, many of them with their own little kids. And on graduation day, which was about 2 months ago, ABSA gave every single one of these first 20 students an offer of employment. And when on their graduation, and when we looked at the salary, I mean, I was like, what? This is unbelievable. Like every single one of those students on their day of graduation is earning more than any staff member at MI, myself included as the CEO. Nano, Comsilla, etc. And so that is so exciting, but that's shared value. ABSA would not be paying that money for these individuals if they could not add a great deal of value to their company. Another example with Bright, they're just down the road from us in the CBD. See how we're doing for time. And Bright have pledged to employ 1,000 of our graduates. So we're taking 1,000 unemployed people, training them up. They've already taken over 200 and employed them. But again, it's a wonderful example of shared value. Bright wants to expand in the communities, the insurance products, and we want to help unemployed youth get into jobs. So what have we learned? Our people have the potential, the drive, the commitment to achieve any extraordinary feats in education if they get the opportunity. And we know that talent is distributed, but opportunity is not. And I think that that's what many of us work on. There's never been a time where it's more important to act on these issues, because I think unimaginable things are coming in the next 25 years. I mean, if we think of the last 25 years, how much change there's been in the world, it's unbelievable. And now we think of the next 25 years. What's there going to be? There's going to be humanoids that are much smarter than people, that walk, talk like a human being, and they'll be often maybe even almost unrecognizable, but they'll have like an IQ, like, they reckon that by 2027, there'll be absolute parity of artificial intelligence and human brain. Already no human being in the world can beat computers now in chess, in Go, in pretty much almost any game now of intelligence. We can't beat technology anymore. But by 2045, they reckon that artificial intelligence will be 1 billion times more intelligent than even the smartest human beings. So, that's humanoids, artificial intelligence. Will have self-driving cars for sure. We'll have flying cars. And what will happen to average people? And I often think this country's already disrupted. It's not like we have to wait for the disruption that all this like technology is coming and then we're going to be disrupted. We're already disrupted with all of our electricity stuff and water and food and everything else. So what is going to happen as this escalation in technology just truly is going exponential? And that's why I think the work of all of us it's absolutely essential. And it isn't a luxury and it isn't a nice thing to do. We have to do it. And we have to be so committed to finding what I call the secret sauce in things. We have to go to the root cause. We have to find things that truly work, and we've got to be very open-minded, and it's hard to be open-minded often, and often we'll come at something with a very, very surface solution. People are hungry, we'll just give them food, and now they're not going to be hungry, but they won't be hungry for a day, and that's an obvious example of a superficial solution. But I think in every single area, we really, really have to go deep and find how to bring change in these issues. So just a few more points in conclusion, and also to talk about Trialogue and our partnership with Trialogue. Firstly, it is necessary to want to do good, and I always feel that it doesn't matter why we all want to do good, for whatever reason. Even if it's your job to do good, you work in a company and you're fortunate enough to have a job to do good. That's incredible, and that gives. That gives the basic momentum. But then what's very important is the direction that good takes, and to make sure that we achieve maximum impact. And, I think we see many, many examples in South Africa. So I'm a personal, passionate advocate of BEE. I think BEE is just the most incredible legislation of almost anywhere in the world if it's done right. And yet we see some companies just literally throwing money away in the name of BEE just to get points, when every cent is so precious, could be used to absolutely change the country. So that's when I say it's good to want to do good, that's essential, but to point that good in the right direction, so we maximize impact, that every rand earns 100 rand and every rand earns 1,000 rand. That's what we need to be thinking about all the time. We have to be obsessed with impact to make the change that we want. So it's incredibly special for us to be here with Trialogue, Kathy and Nick and the team. And I'm so happy to see Lorato here as one of our graduates working for Trialogue. And I saw Samuel, another one of our graduates here. So it's just very, very exciting. to see what Trialogue has done for all these 25 years. We've been your partner for 16 years, and just seeing how the business and the organization has changed and grown, and how much you've helped us on that journey, introducing us to companies, helping us with so many projects and initiatives, employing students. It's a long list. On our side, our dream is to take the Johannesburg CBD that everybody is running away from. Business after business after business is leaving the CBD, and we want to turn that into an education city for all the millions and millions of people living in Soweto, Orange Farm, Katlehong, Vosloorus, Daveyton, Beckersdale, Sebokeng, all these millions of youth that are unemployed, that have to travel through the city to come to this promised land in the north, like Rosebank and Sandton and Midrand and Woodmead and all these places where the jobs are, and hope to be that connecting point. So please watch over the next 25 years what happens in the CBD. It is not going to go down. That is my prediction. It is going to go the absolute opposite of down that everybody's predicting. It's going to go right up and become a beacon of hope in the whole world. So that's what we're going to be working on over the next 25 years, and a couple of other things. So just in conclusion, just a deep thanks to everybody that's here for the work that you do, that your companies do, that your organizations do. Tracy, that I used to work with, the beautiful work you do in Ray of Hope. The gentleman I just met who's working with street people here and just started up here in Johannesburg from Cape Town. Is it John? Yeah. Just the wonderful things that everybody's doing. Each of our dreams to create the South Africa that we all long for everybody. And just nothing is more powerful than our human spirit, and that's true. And I often say the one thing that Eskom cannot put out is our human spirit. You know, thankfully we don't work on electricity, and even when the power goes out, we can still get up in the morning and brush our teeth in the dark and go to bed in the dark, and all of that. It's actually quite peaceful. When it does happen, it gives us lots of time for thinking and so on. But the human spirit, that's the greatest thing. And just to remember that every single one of these problems it's absolutely fixable. I mean, there's nothing we have to cry about. I don't even read the newspaper or anything else. There's just nothing to cry about. Let's just get out there and fix it and be smart and deal with the root causes and come up with sustainable solutions, because they're all there. And find those great things that work and scale them up, and that's it. We will live in a heavenly country. And just in the words of Martin Luther King, he said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hatred cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And so I think it behoves all of us to love more, to bring more light, to bring more goodness to all the people around us, our families, our friends, our companies, our organizations, and doesn't matter how high the mountain seems, we are definitely going to get there. Let's change the game. Let's do it together, link our hands and our arms and our hearts, and change South Africa. Thank you very much, and all the best of the next 25 years.
I, for one, look forward to seeing Joburg CBD in 25 years as an education hub. And I think if there's anyone that can do it, it's you. So yeah, thanks for that. And also to say that Makano from APSA is watching online, sent me a message saying thanks for the recognition. And, you know, thanks for bringing up so many great examples of shared value. We're going to see more of that later in today's proceedings when we announce the winner of the Trialogue Strategic CSI Award. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Riyad Ibrahim, if he's mic'd up, to just give a brief taster of what's in this 25-year edition.
I'm really excited to be here and to be presenting an overview of the handbook. I joined Trialogue start of October, and so I came in on the tail end of the handbook, and I saw the, massive commotion that goes around getting an entire, 240 pages, 270 pages together. I lost 30 pages. And it was an absolutely exciting experience. So as mentioned before, and you can't miss it, especially with the cupcakes that we've got for you later today, 2022 is our silver edition, and it's quite an exciting one. Personally, I've engaged with this book before in other work that I've done, and I can confidently say that this is the most, or one of the most exciting books that we've had the pleasure of producing. And I'm not saying that just because I'm biased. I genuinely do believe that this is a momentous book. In terms of the breakdown of the book, it's split into 6 chapters. Chapter 1 deals with trends in corporate giving. This year, we traced a broad historical outline starting all the way back at 1937 when the Department of Social Welfare was first formed in South Africa. And our timeline goes all the way up to 2022 with the launch of this book. Over breakfast, some of you would have seen the timeline that we blew up on the wall. It is in the book as well. And it just traces a broad outline of the developments of the sector over the last few years. Importantly, we looked at the development of corporate social investment as it's moved from what we term CSI 3.1, CSI 1.0, all the way through to CSI 3.0. Through this, we described how CSI has evolved from a reactionary giving sort of scenario that was more charitable in nature to one that is to a CSI that is more aligned to regulatory requirements and developmental goals, which eventually culminates in what we are terming CSI 3.0, which is more strategic in nature and embedded in the fabric of an organization. Chapter 1 also dives into some of the global trends in ESG and social investments, which helps us to better describe South Africa in relation to other places in the world. Chapter 2 delves into the developmental sectors. The research is broken down as per the usual 12 sectors, except this year it's it's got an added spice to it, if you will. In each of the developmental sectors, we trace a 25-year timeline of how that, what has happened in the sector, what are the significant milestones. Of course, the few pages that we use for each of that doesn't do it justice, but it does give a broad outline. And Bumi is still not here, was very involved in that process. Chapter 3 is dedicated to responsible business. The chapter opens with an exciting article tracing the evolution of ESG, a concept that was only formally introduced in 2004 by the United Nations Global Compact. From there, it has sprung into an entire sector which no good company can be without. Just as an illustration of the rapid growth of ESG, in 2006, 63 investment companies with a combined asset under management portfolio of $6.5 trillion were signatories to the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investing. That's 2006. 15 years later, in 2021, the UNPRI has 5,000 signatories with a combined $120 trillion of assets under management in just 15 years. That is the massive expansion of ESG. Well, one of the elements of the massive expansion of ESG. This article also goes into the evolution of ESG from a glossy reporting phase to the integrated thinking. And that's a journey that the author Matthew is particularly interested in helping business with. Capitalism depends on perpetual increased consumption, and this tends to be at odds with our needs to preserve nature and the environment. The next article in chapter 3 is titled Capitalism. Do we need a new paradigm? It's set against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic and begins to ask important questions about how sustainable our current presiding economic models are. This chapter also touches on what companies can do in the face of a biodiversity crisis and describes the business case for biodiversity. It looks at the future of work in the wake of the Great Resignation, in the wake of the Great Resignation, and what that entails potentially for employees and employers. Includes a practical piece on measuring social impact of a company and describes actions businesses can do to curb corruption. Besides this, there are numerous viewpoints and conference insights related to these topics that will definitely keep the pages turning. Oh, that's it. Margaret Fuller, the women's rights advocate and journalist in the mid-1800s, once said, "If you have knowledge, let others light their candles in it." And chapter 4 of the book is very much dedicated to this. Through chapter 4, we've got 7 companies that share case studies with us about the work that they are doing, so that we are able to kind of learn from them, to see what could potentially be partnered with. Anglo-American Platinum shares with us their approach to rebuilding local economies in the post-COVID world through understanding, responding, and rebuilding. They share how they have engaged with their communities to better understand the needs of the community, how they've put in place immediate responses, and how they are looking to build sustainably into the future. Exaro shares with us their collaborative efforts for regional development through creative partnerships for development. The IDC shares with us how its focus on education support has evolved from a give to a good cause scenario to a strategic and systemic scenario where its focus is on the educational outcomes, which is an interesting reflection of the CSI 1.0 to CSI 3.0 journey that we've described. Investec shares with us an incredible story of Ntando Zuma, who was actually part of their program, part of their high school maths and science program in 2005, and is now an employee of Investec and goes on to mentor youth in his community. Mr. Price Foundation shares with us how they have simultaneously invested in both innovative education as well as skills development, and how education is the bedrock upon which many careers, especially self-employment, can be developed. COVID-19, the KZN floods and the riots in KZN have really highlighted the need for more resilient communities. In a case study, Santam shares with us their public-private partnerships that they've been engaged in for close to a decade now, seeking to build greater community resilience. And the last case study comes from Woolworths, who talks to us about changing paradigms in the sector and adopting an inclusive justice approach. Whilst the developmental goals have not changed, the way we get there is just as important. In the words of Katie Hayes at Woolworths, the lens of inclusive justice challenges Woolworths to heighten its understanding and acknowledgement of proof points of inequality, marginalization, and discrimination, and be intentional about the shifts required to walk the talk in inclusive justice. South Africa is facing a massive unemployment challenge in a sluggish economy. Skills development and education are seen as potential levers that can help reduce this crisis. It is for this reason that most companies are involved in education support. 98% of the companies that we surveyed were supporting education and skills in some shape or form. Thus, an entire chapter is dedicated to this topic. Chapter 5 opens up with an article expounding on the importance on investments in early childhood development and dives into some of the harsh realities that South Africa needs to face up to if it is to bridge the ECD gaps that the country still faces. It continues by looking at how we can best support our teachers in a changing landscape, as well as detailing how a collective impact approach can become a powerful tool in supporting education. We also take a future-focused approach and look at how post-school education can match up to the rapidly evolving demands of the future, and also what needs to be done to better support entrepreneurs. Also in Chapter 5, there is a webinar insight on online education and a viewpoint on the YES program. Finally, Chapter 6, any discussions of development would be incomplete without the involvement of the nonprofit sector. Chapter 6 is dedicated to that. It looks at NPO income in South Africa, NPO resilience in a changing climate, has 10 fundraising tips, looks at the National Lotteries Commission, includes a viewpoint on the NPO Amendment Bill, and it describes the MTN Awards for Social Change, which recognizes and awards good M&E practices, and you'll hear more about that in about 30 minutes or so. Cool, and that's a broad overview of the book. It is a book that you will not be able to put down when you do receive it. Obviously, we didn't give it to you yet because there's still the competition announcements and that. But thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to engaging with you after this.
Morning, everyone. Trialogue has tracked CSI expenditure for the past 25 years, and it's my pleasure this morning to present to you the key findings of the research we undertook this year. Our CSI expenditure for this year amounted to 10.9 billion rands. This estimate is based on the analysis of CSI expenditure of the listed companies in South Africa, followed by your multinationals operating in the borders of South Africa as well, and state-owned enterprises. And it includes cash and non-cash giving. Our analysis. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll be audible this time. So our analysis takes into account several factors. Firstly, we considered the year-on-year changes in the CSI expenditure of 118 listed companies and the net profit after tax of 153 listed companies using the publicly reported data. We looked at SARS data on total company taxable income and tax paid in comparison to expected CSI expenditure based on net profit after tax. We also considered year-on-year changes in the CSI expenditure of the 33 companies that participated in Trialogue's 2022 research for 2 consecutive years, that is this year and the previous year. And finally, we estimated total expenditure based on the number of small and medium companies and their expected CSI expenditure in South Africa. You know that in 2022, our CSI estimate showed a 6% increase. But it's also important to know that it's only in nominal terms. In real terms, it actually equates to a 0% increase. The net profit after tax of 153 companies in 2022 showed a median increase of 57%. However, the lower increase in CSI expenditure could be attributed to a lag between net profit after tax and CSI expenditure, with CSI budgets set as a percentage of net profit after tax based on the financial performance of the previous year. So as a result, we look forward to growth in CSI expenditure next year to show a true reflection of the increase in net profit after tax this year. In 2022, the top 3 contributing sectors remain the same as previous years. Basic materials accounted for the largest portion of CSI expenditure, which accounted for about 34%, as you can see on the top right-hand side of the slide, followed by the consumer services sector, accounting for 29% of CSI expenditure, which in part, of course, is due to the value of goods and services that would be donated, particularly in this sector. And the third largest contributor accounted for 19% of CSI expenditure. I would like to thank our 65 corporate respondents who participated in our research survey this year. 44% of the companies reported an increase in CSI expenditure in 2022, up considerably from 36% last year. There was also a significant drop in the proportion of companies reporting a decrease from 51% last year to 27% in 2022. The main reason for increased CSI expenditure was a change in corporate profit, as indicated by over a third of companies that reported increased CSI expenditure. Over 3/4 of the corporates reported non-cash giving in 2022, up from 29% of the companies last year. In expenditure terms, non-cash giving as a proportion of total CSI accounted for 15% of total CSI expenditure. It's also important to know that there are inconsistencies in how companies value non-cash giving, and may not provide us with a true reflection of non-cash expenditure. Moving on to the development sectors supported. Education was again the most popular corporate cause, as Riyad mentioned. 98% of the companies that we surveyed, meaning all except one, actually supported this cause, and it accounted for an average of 44% of CSI in 2022. This is, however, still below the average CSI that was recorded in 2022. Schools, universities, hospitals, and other government institutions were also popular recipients, supported by 68% of companies and receiving 22% of the average CSI funding. Most NPOs in the sample received support from South African companies, which accounted for an average of 27% of organizational income for the past financial year. It's also interesting to know that companies supported many projects, with 64% supporting more than 10 projects and 26% supporting more than 50 projects this year. Regarding practices in CSI management, over 3/4 of the companies practice CSI for 16 years or more, with over half practicing CSI for more than 25 years. More companies are measuring outcomes for all grants, up from 52% in 2020 to 66% of companies in 2022. 60% of the companies surveyed had a stated policy on M&E in 2022. However, M&E receives only 2% of the CSI funding, which is quite concerning. Regarding the management of CSI, just over 80% of the companies managed at least some of their CSI internally in 2022, with nearly half managing their CSI through a dedicated department within CSI. Further, CSI was reported to either corporate or public affairs, and in the case of government, it would be your government affairs department. More than half of the companies surveyed had between 2 and 9 persons managing or administering the CSI functions, with one quarter having fewer than 2 employees and 1/5 employed 10 people or more. The median number of CSI employees based on our research this year was 3 people. 3/4 of the companies had employee volunteer programs in 2022, from 71% in 2021. Of these, 64% had a stated EVP policy, and 69% actually had a budget for employee volunteering programs. Most companies with EVPs supported organized volunteering initiatives, which had employee participation rates of about 47%. But what was also interesting for us to see is that these type of EVPs are the least liked by NPOs. And I'm sure some of you can agree in the room. And now to our highly anticipated rankings. Congratulations to all companies that made it to the 2022 list. Vodacom was ranked by companies for the sixth consecutive year and has been ranked in the top 5 since 2012. Its ranking by NPOs fell to 7th place from 5th in 2021 and 1st in 2020. MTN was ranked 2nd by companies, up from 3rd in 2021. The company was not ranked in the top 10 by NPOs. Anglo American was ranked 3rd by companies and 1st by NPOs, moving up from 5th as ranked by both companies and NPOs in 2021. In 2012, Anglo American was actually ranked 1st by both corporates and NPOs. I would like to thank you for your attention, and over to you, Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Good. Okay, good. Good morning. Thank you so much, Kathy. It's really great to be here in person. The last 2 years, I presented virtually, so it's nice to be in a room. And of course, good morning to everyone joining virtually as well. Yes, so we had the pleasure of judging this year's Strategic CSI Awards. It's been my 3rd year, and I think over that time, it's been really interesting and quite an honor to understand what companies are doing in this space. And so when I started, it was during COVID and lockdown, and the concern was, when budgets, when we're looking at budgets and where does it get cut, that we're going to see a drop in CSI expenditure. But what's been encouraging and what I've learned in judging this is it's not necessarily how much money you're giving, but really how thoughtful, how strategic, and how deliberate you are in that spend. And that's really what this award aims to look at from a strategic point of view. Many of you who've been following Trialogue will be familiar with the matrix that is used to look at the different approaches and strategies to giving. Trialogue is very clear and says all giving is important. And it's not saying that one is better than the other. But this one, the strategic one, is a tricky one. And I see you've got the slide here. There we go. So you'll see there's developmental CSI, charitable grant making, commercial grant making, and strategic CSI. So we look very much in that top right quadrant. And that's a tricky one. Taddy painted the very complex, messy context that we're all operating in. And for companies to take the time to very deeply think about and understand what makes sense for their company to be investing in, it takes a lot of work on the one hand. So identifying what should we be looking at? But what we also look at, and is very strong, if any of you have completed the application form, I mean, it's a lengthy application form. It asks for evidence, it asks for backup for all of these things, is very much about how you measure the outcomes and the impact. And so when Remembrance shares how much is spent on M&E, I think that of our CSI. So it's within that context that we look through all of these applications. This year, we had a total of 10 applicants. We would love to see more because we know that there is so much happening out there. We'd love to be able to get an understanding of all of that. But what was different this year is that there was firstly a range in the size of companies. So where previously we see large corporates putting in applications, we saw quite a diversity in company size. So that was really insightful to see how smaller companies, or there would be medium-sized companies, are addressing a CSI. The other thing that was interesting and different from previous years was the focus areas. So again, Remembrance shared the focus on education. And that's what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing a lot of projects focused on education. Whereas this year, there was quite a diversity in the focus areas. We had everything from food security, we had health, obviously education, skills, economic inclusion with a focus on SMEs. So quite a wide range of focus areas, which was different to previously. Overall, I think where we were really excited to see, as I've mentioned, the diversity of areas. And again, this focus on how are we measuring the impact, but also for the business. And that's the tricky part of this award. But having said that, we were honored to look through all of the presentations. I will share the winner shortly, but before I do, just to share some projects that I think warrant a mention for some incredible work that they're doing. So these are highly commended projects that we want to kind of give a shout out to for the work that they're doing. The first one is Eskom's Expo for Young Scientists. And this really is a project that looks at how you nurture and encourage STEM within young people. And it has, we've seen this entry a few times. And I think what's really great is that it is a multi-stakeholder partnership-led approach, that it really is looking at skills and education and also has a very practical aspect to it. So we really thought that this was worth a mention. So if you wouldn't mind giving a hand to Eskom for this project. The second project is PepsiCo's Sub-Saharan Africa Dignity to Rural Sanitation. Here again, while a very focused project in a small community, I really looked at providing access to sanitation. What we found really great about this was it was a very thoughtful approach that looked at driving sustainability within this community and very much linked to how they measured the community impact, but also the business impact. So please join me in congratulating PepsiCo. And then the third mention is Rand Refinery, the Silver Mentorship Program. This focused on economic inclusion and supporting SMEs within the jewelry making space. Again, very clear link to the business and also looking at how you stimulate SMEs that could ultimately then feed into the value chain and supply chain. So very clear links there. And so a really fantastic project. Please help me in congratulating Rand Refinery. And now the drum roll. And Becky, actually, if you could join me. This year's winner of the Trialogue Strategic CSI Award goes to a project that Becky and I, when we sat to go over, we score independently. Keep it hidden. We score independently and then we come together and we discuss and we debate. But there was little debate about this project. It just sang very clearly of a very thoughtful approach. What does our business do? And what are the needs of broader community and society? And how can we take what our business has, our resources, our knowledge, our expertise, and put that in the community to really build build a sustainable model? And so this project is focused on food security. I'm delaying the actual announcement. It's part of the suspense of it. It focuses on food security in marginalized communities within this company's operational areas. It aims to improve food security skills and strengthen networking using bio-intensive agricultural techniques. The application was comprehensive, thorough, and detailed. It was well considered, reflecting an approach to this project that sang through the objectives all the way through to measurement and the outcomes, both for the community and for the company. So it is with great pleasure that we announce the winner, Tiger Brands EduPlant. Congratulations. You can go. Congratulations. There you go. Come this way. Just watch here. Just watch this. Congratulations again, and thank you. Thank you so much. And again, please, for next year, we are looking forward to seeing a whole lot of other applications. Thank you so much, Kathy and team.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Kathy. So the MTN Foundation, in partnership with Trialogue, launched the MTN Awards for Social Change in 2019. The objective of these awards is to encourage and reward good M&E practices in the nonprofit sector. Under these awards, registered NPOs can enter a project or program that has been running for at least 2 years, has a social impact objective, and has some level of associated M&E practices in place. Every application is assessed against a range of criteria relating to project design, project outputs, project outcomes, and advanced M&E practices. Under project design, the award assesses relevance of the project and the appropriateness of the design. It looks at the clarity and strength of objectives, as well as the extent of stakeholder consultation and the consideration given to quality control and external factors or risks. Under project outputs, the award assesses the comprehensiveness of outputs, appropriateness of data collection, and it also looks at the indicators and the targets expressed and whether or not they are realistic, as well as the coherence and truthful reporting of performance in terms of volume and scale. Under project outcomes, the award assesses the extent to which the outcomes are understood, correctly identified, have realistic targets, and track actual performance data. And reported outcomes should be reported quantitatively as well as qualitatively through the form of case studies, as well as looking at things such as evaluation reports and deviation from the targets that were expressed. So under the advanced M&E practices, which is a bonus criteria in the awards, the award assesses if the project has a sound theory of change or logic model, together with thought given to unintended consequences and ethical considerations. It also looks at the measurement done by the program in relation to systemic changes, as well as causality and attribution. So as you can see, it's quite an extensive range of criteria used for actually assessing someone's quality of M&E. So what I'm going to do next is introduce my fellow judges, as well as my experience of this award, being a judge since inception, and then announce the winners, as well as the reason why they were selected as winners. So this year, there were 53 MPOs that entered these awards, with all entries being reviewed initially by Trialogue across the criteria mentioned a few minutes ago, as well as, and that allowed for us to arrive to a short list of 5 MPOs per category. And as a result, per category, overall, we had 20 shortlisted applicants that were reviewed and scored by myself and my fellow judges. So just to introduce my fellow judges, and I think they are online at the moment, Furiel Domingo, who has worked in the nonprofit sector for more than a decade, has qualifications in public relations, corporate governance and citizenship, and postgraduate diploma in management. She has also obtained a certificate in fundraising management and provides coaching and mentorship based on the 10 elements of advancement. She's currently the acting executive director of Inyatelo. Then we also have Jessica Williams, who is also joining us online, who is an independent M&E specialist consultant and has worked within the development field since 2012. She has conducted numerous evaluations in the MPO, CSI, and development sector, and has worked across a variety of other subsectors and clients on developing and operationalizing their theories of change, logic models, and indicator frameworks. She's currently a senior associate with Trialogue. So a little bit more about what I've noticed over the past, I'd say 4 years now since looking at the awards. I've participated as a judge in the MTN Social Change Awards since it started in 2019. I've been encouraged to see that regardless of the size and age of organizations that apply for these awards, M&E is seen as a function that is strategic and a learning and accountability partner for organizations. Furthermore, I've noticed that the process has become more competitive. So as you can see, as I mentioned at the beginning, the criteria is quite rigorous. And what we've seen is greater quality of applications come through. And across the categories, there have been organizations demonstrating how M&E can be used beyond just accounting for spend and program delivery. Often that's the point of what most people report on, how much was spent and counting the numbers of people reached. But what we've seen in the applications is that it extends beyond that, going into the depths of impact. There are also more submissions that come through that demonstrate M&E as a support to research and experimentation, and to prove and validate theories of change and program design. Moreover, more organizations are using technology to collect data related to program implementation to inform continuous improvement and evaluative decision-making. There have also been a trend that shows that M&E is used to drive community action. So it's not just an accountability tool for your donor, but actually it's a form of data to inform community action and to drive policy change. And interestingly, I've also noticed how small organizations, when I refer to small, I mean in terms of budget, are able to be resourceful and use the skills and time of volunteers, as well as sort of part-time staff, to make up the M&E capacity that they're unable to put in full-time through the use of these part-time resources. What I've also noticed is that medium and large organizations tend to spend more budget on M&E staff. And what this suggests to me, looking at the applications over time, is that M&E can play an important role in the scaling journey of nonprofit organizations. So it's a contributor to the growth story of nonprofits through accurately reporting on impact and delivering types of insights that could relate back to program design and potential opportunities for impactful interventions. So over to the moment we've all been waiting for, the announcement of the winners. So this year, MTN is awarding 300,000 Rand to each of the winning organizations in the following size categories: small MPOs with a total annual income of less than so small MPOs with a total annual income of less than 5 million Rand, medium MPOs with a total annual income greater than 5 million Rand but less than 15 million Rand, and also large MPOs with a total annual income greater than 15 million Rand. A bonus award of 100,000 Rand is being given to an MPO that has provided the best evidence with regards to advanced M&E practices. So before I go to announcing the shortlisted organizations and the actual winners of the awards, I'd like to say that that all the sort of shortlisted applications that have come through have demonstrated great quality and have done very well to get to the stage of being shortlisted. And for those that have applied, and I would also say it's likely the CSI awards have gone through a very long application form, I'd like to acknowledge the effort that they put in, as well as the commitment to having M&E as an important function as part of the MPOs to report and account for the impact they create. So now the moment we've all been waiting for. So in the small category of the shortlisted organizations that form part of this category were One Voice South Africa NPC, Ezra Community Training and Development NPC, Girls for Girls South Africa, Help to Read, and Pakamani Young Minds Academy. So as with the previous presenter, I'd like everyone to do a drum roll for me, please. Thank you. Thanks. And the winner in the small category, who will receive 300,000 Rand, is One Voice South Africa NPC. Please join me in congratulating One Voice SA NPC. Thank you. So, okay. So in absentia, just to read out what the judges felt with regards to their winning submission. OVSA addresses a critical skills gap for youth attempting to access employment market for the first time. The program is well designed to cover as many aspects as possible in preparing graduates for the world of work. M&E appears to form an integral part of the organization and program, even with a small budget. The M&E approach is functional and is in assisting to identify deep strategic questions, and the logic of the intervention is well articulated with clear outcomes, targets, and data collection. OVSA to be doing more in terms of data collection, but this is for the purpose behind the award, this will require further funding. OVSA makes use of data to inform decision-making, and resources are allocated effectively. The other impressive thing about this submission was that the M&E learnings are shared widely amongst different stakeholders and is used for continuous improvement. So over to our next category, which is the medium category. I'm going to announce the shortlisted organizations. So the first shortlisted organization was NOAH, which is the Neighborhood Old Age Homes NPC. Then we've got Massey Corp. Then we have the Legal Center for Gender-Based Violence, the Phoenix Trust, and Itikeng Disabled Center. So I would like a drum roll from the audience, please. Thank you. Thanks. So the winner in the medium category who will receive 300,000 Rand is NOAH, Neighborhood Old Age Homes, with the NOAH Happiness Project. Please come up stage. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. So while we So just to go through the judge's reasoning, the NOAH Happiness Program operates in Cape Town and seeks to provide psychosocial support to approximately 200 social pensioners from 2 community centers based in Woodstock and Kailicha. The program employs an asset-based community development approach, which entails making elders aware of the assets and how they can use them to promote healthier, more resilient and supportive families and communities. NOAH Happiness includes social support, wellness, arts and crafts, and food security and healing. And what impressed the judges the most about the M&E approach is that it combined the M&E with research to inform its program offerings. So in other words, data was used to inform the design, M&E as well as research. And what we found is that the project is well structured and clear in its measurable outcomes, which have been explored and documented. Similar to the previous category winner, the next step for NOAH, based on what the judges have seen, it would be to conduct a formal evaluation to, let's say, round off its M&E work. Well done to NOAH for winning the medium category. So over to our large category. So the shortlisted organizations in this category were U-Turn Homeless Ministries, the Ndlovu Care Group, Citizen Leader Lab, Digify Africa, and Crystal House South Africa. So I would like a drum roll for this one as well, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. So the winner in this category for large organizations is the Ndlovu Care Group with the Ndlovu Nutritional Units. Well done. Well done, guys. Well done.
Stop that.
So over to the reason why the judges selected the Ndlovu Care Group. The Ndlovu Care Group has worked with communities in the Limpopo province for the past 27 years to address community development through an extensive suite of programs centered around healthcare, child and youth development, WASH, which is water, health and sanitation and hygiene, infrastructure support and research programs. The organization works closely with communities to address these needs through its implementation of evidence-based programming. The design of the Ndlovu Nutritional Units program is robust and has been informed by the use of M&E processes and data over time. The organization engages regularly with stakeholders to understand needs to improve their offering, but also to share learnings and lessons learned with those key stakeholders. There's good use of M&E tools and processes with appropriate outcomes and measurable indicators. The outcomes are concise and outcome indicators are logical, straightforward in terms of measurement. There's evidence of continuous review and refinement of the M&E framework over time to ensure that it evolves. And I think this is an important point. A lot of the time when M&E frameworks are designed, it's sometimes seen as something that's static and can't change. But what impressed us about the Global Care Group submission is the desire to continuously improve, review, and almost seek out how to best capture the impact they make, but also, more importantly, to seek out how that can be used to, I almost want to say, expand their reach in terms of impact by using data. So over to our last category now, which is the bonus category. The bonus award was used to evaluate NPOs that provide the best evidence with regards to advanced M&E practice. This included having a documented theory of change, considering the potential negative, unintended consequences that could arise from the program, and being cognizant of the ethical considerations which come with conducting M&E with vulnerable groups. The shortlisted organizations in this bonus prize category were U-Turn Homeless Ministries, Global Care Group, Ezra Community Training and Development NPC, NOAA, and STEPS Charity NPC. So, like with the other awards, I would like you to join me in a drum roll. I promise this. Thank you. This is the last drum roll, so your hands will be okay after this. So the winner in the bonus category who will receive 100,000 Rand is U-Turn Homeless Ministries with a life change journey. Well done. So over to some comments from the judges as to why U-Turn Homeless Ministries was selected. So U-Turn Homeless Ministries assist people experiencing homelessness to transition from life on the streets by equipping them with skills they need to ultimately get sober, become employed, and live independently in traditional housing. The life change journey is grounded in research and evidence-based programming, and U-Turn Ministries has cultivated a deep understanding of homelessness trend over time, including detailed information about the homelessness rates in South Africa compared to international rates, and movement of people without homes between different geographical regions. This has allowed for the organization to engage with the City of Cape Town on the amendment of bylaws. In terms of the M&E, the approach is very innovative and responsive to both program and community needs. There is also advanced data collection and data management systems in place through the use of Salesforce. It also is a source of common data and business intelligence, which has been widely used. And the U-Turn team's ability to think evaluatively, work collectively, and experiment with data allows them to develop very unique insights that are used to inform key stakeholders within the social development sector. And that is the key reason why U-Turn Ministries was selected as the winner of the bonus category. So thank you so much for your time, and MTN for providing the awards to these various organizations, and for continuing to support the monitoring and evaluation practices in South Africa. And well done to all of those that are shortlisted, and special thanks to those that have applied. Thank you very much.
And congratulations again to all of our winners, Tiger Brands, One Voice, NOAA, and Global Care Group, and U-Turn Ministries. Well done to all of you. If there's one thing that, well, you probably all know it in this room, but Trialogue is very rigorous. We've heard all the judges say that. So thank you for doing the application form, going through that process. And for those of you who participated in the research for our handbook, thank you for that too. We know that's also another long survey. But without these, we really can't get the rich data that we've got. But thank you to everyone that did the survey, and thank you again to those that sponsored adverts or case studies in the handbook. So that brings us to the end of today's formal proceedings. Apologies to those of you online who lost me a little bit earlier. There was a bit of a mic switch up issue, but hopefully you can hear me now. And this on the slide, I just want to remind people to diarize a few things to look forward to next year, our webinars, our conference in May, the new and improved Trialogue Knowledge Hub, the strategic CSI masterclass I mentioned earlier, starting in March next year, and then obviously also our handbook. For those of you that are here, there is an optional tour of the women's jail happening after this. If you'd like to attend that, please just meet us on the lawn outside. We also have celebratory cupcakes, so please don't leave without your 25-year cupcake. And there's also packages for all of you where you'll finally get your hands on that hard copy of the handbook. So yeah, so please do take one of those with you. And then just thank you all for joining us this morning and for supporting Trialogue and for supporting this research and these awards, and for really doing the work that you do every day. The nonprofits here, the company representatives, as Taddy said, everyone here is passionate and trying to do good and really making a difference in this country. So thank you for all that you do and enjoy the rest of the morning. Thanks.